Hello everyone, today we're looking at one of these. This is a Motorola 7090. It was available through Roadstar Telecomunications, so a lot of people know this particular phone as just Roadstar 7090. It is in fact a Motorola, and this is what the box looks like. I was actually real fortunate to pick this up quite some time ago. I think Roadstar Telecommunications, they were around in the late 90s, I think it was. There's not too much info on Roadstar Telecommunications if you Google them, but they were around the eastern sort of countries. I think the Germanic speaking countries. Because the guy who sold this to me said that he had several different Roadstar phones, and they all stemmed from sort of Germany, Austria, Switzerland sort of countries. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. He's got nothing to gain out of telling me lies. So, but this is what the box looks like. It is actually remarkably heavy for what it is. But there's not really much else apart from the serial number, and it's got brand Roadstar. It is actually a Motorola. So let's take a look inside, see what you got when you bought one of these. Incidentally, I was going to do a video about the old Ericsson here, but I've had this on charge for about 16 hours and it's not doing anything. So not too sure if I'm going to be able to do a video about that one. So let's have a look inside. Then you got obviously the original 6-volt nickel cadmium battery, and you got another battery. Presumably this was a replacement of some sort. Not too sure if this is the NiCad or... Oh no, actually this is a Pioneer. That shouldn't be in there. Apologies, that really shouldn't be in there. That's obviously from another phone. So taking a look inside, then you got obviously the phone, and you got a whole host of pamphlets and manuals. Now there isn't much difference between the 7090 and the 795. Actually, they both look identical. In fact, I don't actually even know what the difference is between the 7095 and the 7090. So if anybody does, drop me a comment, because I certainly couldn't work it out. Manual's quite extensive. The good thing about this is it's in different languages. Don't know if you can tell, but so number 1 would be German. I think number 2 is German as well, by the looks of it. Number 3, oh, so maybe, yeah, 3rd chapter, and then they got chapter 2. Index. So yeah, so 100 pages worth of index, and then they got, that's French as far as I know. So the manual's in German, French, and what looks to be Italian. Funzioni più complesse. My Italian ain't too good, but I would say then that potentially that was for the Italian market, possibly sort of South Germany, Austria sort of area, Switzerland possibly. So that's the manual, and you got another manual, instruction manual. So I guess this would be the English version, because it says English version on it. So they obviously made the booklet and then realized, oh, we better make an English version in case we want to sell this phone abroad. But anyway, enough about the manuals. You also got a real big clunky charger. Of course, this is from an era where they actually had transformers in here, not the switch mode power supply stuff. This is of course out of Germany, so this will be a European 2 plug. But this is all still original. The guy obviously who had this looked after it, and of course you got the usual Motorola desktop cradle. This is an IntelliCharge XT, so that's a better one out of all of these. They did an overnight one as well, which obviously takes a lot longer to charge the battery. So I guess let's quickly get rid of this and fire up the phone. Now this is of course GSM, which means this can still be used to this day in pretty much everywhere around the world, apart from North America, Southern America, Central America, and Canada. This operates on GSM 900, and actually this is probably the nearest to an international 5200 without the flip. Actually, I've just realized that. So in fact, even the antenna, this curvy little thing, is identical to a 5200. In fact, I should have got one out actually, shouldn't I really? Let me try and see if I can find one quickly. Okay, and we're back. So this is what a Motorola digiflip looks like. This is inherently a 5200, but the 5200s were black. This is a gray model. So let me just take this quickly out the box and show you the similarities, because basically they are very, very similar. Move this out the way quickly. So this is a 5200. It's still got the cellophane on the screen. If you compare that to the Roadstar 7090, I would say that's the same phone. Same kind of display, same keypad layout, pretty much button for button, it's the same thing. So my guess is that this was basically just one of these without a pokey little flip. This one's of course out of, I think this one's Australian because it's got Vodafone on it. This is a 5200, so that just confirms it there. But it's known as a digiflip. So, but anyway, so back to this, of course. Let me try and get a decent battery. Try and steal one from this phone. This is an SC735. Did a video about the SC725 last year. Don't know if you checked that out. It's the only microtac I know that's got a funny round sort of edge here. And this one does actually still work. But this is CDMA, so it ain't gonna pick up service. But anyway, so let's just confirm the battery. This battery's got a bit of juice. I'm gonna power this one up with this, just to get the nice matching gray color. And then we need a SIM. So let me try and see if I got a SIM card somewhere. Yeah, I'll try and use a Vodafone one. So the SIM slot's in at the bottom, like so. Quite tight, that actually. Dual line LCD display. When was the last time you saw one of these? So basically, pretty simple phone this actually. It is like a 5200. The menu's identical on it, so I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but it's got general interface, all right, we're getting SMS messages. So I'm going to use a different SIM card. This is a thing. When you don't use these test SIM cards for ages, and then when you do put them in a phone, you get bombarded. I'm going to use, this is a GSM 900 phone. This is a SIM card out of a provider that uses GSM 1800. So hopefully this thing won't pick up service. I mean, I proved it picked up service, and how do you say it? It picked up service with a Vodafone card, so that's GSM 900. So anyway, we've put the pin in. I think then it's just a case of pound. That's accepted it. Now it still says it's got service. Hopefully this will come out in a second saying unregistered SIM card. In the meanwhile, I'm going to run through the menu real quick. So general, interface, call monitor, call restrictions, secure, which is security. And then you just got options. I'm not too sure what that is. Battery save. So you got one option of battery save basically. So yeah, and then you got SMS. Now let's go into SMS. It's asking me to select service, which is because this SIM card is not registered to the GSM 900 networks. So SMSs, you got cell broadcast. I'm not too sure if most of y'all know what cell broadcast is. When the GSM service launched many years ago, but some particular cellular providers had different tariffs for or different prices for you making a call nationally or locally. Particularly, a good example of that would have been Vodafone in the UK. Back in the days, their GSM plans, and I think even their analog plans, they basically, when you made a call nationally, so out of town, that was charged differently to if you made a call that was to a local phone, to a local fixed phone. And the tariffs then were called Metro Call and National Call, I think it was. I certainly remember having the Metro Call one. The cell broadcast was basically to enable you to receive the little prefix of the local area dialing code, whatever you want to call it, of where the area you're in, basically. So you knew if you're dialing a number with the same area code displayed on the phone's display at the time, you knew that was a local call. Any other dialing codes or prefixes, as it's known here, would be classed as a national call, and you'd get billed appropriately for that. And this cell broadcast is basically to switch that on. So you'd go in and you'd need to specify the channel, which I think was always 50. It might have been 55 actually. But of course, we're not going to receive anything because the SIM card in this is for GSM 1800. I know it's got full service, but this little circle with the line through it, it's flashing, is Motorola's way of saying that you can't place or receive calls right now. It's saying that there is a cellular provider if you need to make an emergency call, but if it's flashing, it means you can make an emergency call, so 999 or 911 or 112. 112 is GSM, guys, for the guys in America. If that's solid, then you're not in a service zone, full stop. There's no cellular provider covering the area where you're at. And obviously, if that stops flashing and disappears altogether, you're good to go to make and receive calls. Or receive SMSs. But anyway, so you set this function up in this one here, and I don't think there's anything else in SMS, is there? Oh yeah, there is. Message alert tone, so you could switch that on and off, and that was it. You got option 7.1 and option 7.2. Not much else really. So what do we get in options? Oh, we've been through this already. Battery save, that's about it. Secure. That'll be all your unlock codes, change unlock code, that is. You got a master reset as well. I think you'd need you'd need the security code for that, which I don't have for this phone. I can get it actually with my little special SIM card, but I don't have that to hand at the moment. So what else we got in options? Oh, we've been there. Secure. So we got change unlock code, master reset, master clear, which should obviously get rid of your stored names and numbers and that sort of stuff. Change security code, auto lock, which is just your phone lock basically, and that's it pretty much for security. So call restrictions. This is basically some of the older phones. I don't know if you all know, but some of the older phones you could actually restrict the dialing on the keypad. You could set these old Motorola's up to only allow numbers to be dialed or calls to be placed from numbers stored in the memory of the phone. So if you lent your phone to somebody, they could only place calls to numbers that are actually already stored in the phone. If they try and dial a number just by punching in the numbers, it wouldn't let you do it. So this is what the restrict keypad basically means. Restrict keypad dialing is basically what I just explained. You got restrict memory access, so obviously you could restrict access to the stored names and numbers. You could restrict incoming calls, which is still a feature of GSM nowadays, but who wants to do that? Unless you want to be a hermit and go into hibernation. And then you could restrict the phone number length, which was nifty if you didn't want people to place international calls. But yeah, I mean, it depends. In the UK, there's obviously 0800 numbers which are free to call. just like in America. So, and those are a digit longer than, or they were a digit longer than normal fixed line phones back in the day. Of course, with the increased capacity, the fixed line providers have added an extra digit. So now, sorry about that. So now the fixed lines are they're the same length as all the 0800 numbers. Unless we forget, 0800 numbers off a cell phone weren't free for a long time. Then they were free on some providers and not on others. Then they blanket charge for them. And I think recently, like late 2015, they just decided, you know what, we'll just let people call them for free. But that excludes like the calling card services and stuff. So, but anyway, so restrict phone number length is what that means. Full service means that no, there's no restrictions, and that's currently on. So the moment you set up any of these other restrictions, full service goes off automatically, basically. So, and that's your lot for this, really. So that's call restrictions. Call monitor is just your timers, basically, and your 1 minute audible timer, because airtime back then was expensive. So you could set this phone up to beep every minute you're on the phone, so you knew how much money you were burning away whilst talking on the cell phone. And then obviously you could have a beep, in the first minute, and then to repeat it in every minute after, basically. One-time audible, auto monitor displays. I'm not too sure what that is. Display call timers. Let's do that quickly. Individual, total reset, home reset, roam, total cumulative. So it looks like this phone has only done 27 minutes and 50 seconds, which is why it's in darn good shape, actually. I got real lucky. The guy had several of these, and I managed to steal one off him, should I say. Well, it wasn't cheap, so it wasn't a steal, but anyway. So that's that really for this one. Going through the menu then. Call monitor, we just did. Interface, that's just your ringer, basically. Keypad tones, notepad tones, long DTMF tones, and whether or not it's requesting the pin, basically. And then language selection. What languages does this support? So we got English, Dutch, which is German, Dansk, which is Danish, Francais, which is obviously French, Italiano, which is Italian, Espanol, which is Spanish, Svenska, which I think is Swedish, Netherlands, which is obviously Dutch, Portuguese, obviously Portuguese, Suomi, that's what they speak at in Finland, in Scandinavia, Norsk, not too sure. I'm guessing that's probably Norwegian. Can't pronounce that, whatever that is. Any Greeks out in the house watching this? You want to tell me how to pronounce that? That's obviously for Greek. And then back to English. I'm gonna stick with English because that's what I do best. Safety timer. Not too sure what that is again. Possibly for it to stop. Oh, that's maybe to keeps asking me to select service. Safety timer. Where's the safety timer gone? I'm not too sure what that is, although it says 60 minutes. My guess is that it's to stop any calls going over 60 minutes. Because, like I said, back in those days, calls were expensive to make. You placed a call and you were on the phone for 10 minutes, you'd know about it. Your bank balance would lose a zero. Nowadays, of course, with unlimited plans, everybody's got unlimited minutes, so it don't really matter how long you're on the phone for. This function is obviously obsolete. But back in the day, these functions were we take all these functions for granted nowadays. But back in the day, cell phone usage was expensive. There's a lot of new collectors I'm getting emails from nowadays, asking about this and asking about that. And the concept of pull-out antennas. I mean, geez, I was actually in a cell phone shop about 2 weeks ago. I ain't gonna say where because it's a bit derogatory, but it was in the UK. No, it was less than a week ago, and it's just about a week ago. It's since I've been back basically, and and I pulled out my my Motorola MR601, which is my day-to-day phone, which is basically one of these. This is my day-to-day phone. It's got the pull-out antenna, and I use this pretty much every day. Anyway, so I pulled it out to make a call, and so I placed my call, and it was only about a minute and a half and whatever, just to let my buddies know where I was. And the guy in the shop, he was a young kid, probably only about 19, 20. He was like, what is that on your phone? You know, what is the stick thing? And I was like, it's an antenna. And the guy had absolutely no concept of you know, antennas and radiation and the way cell phones work. Because, of course, nowadays teenagers grow up with cell phones, touch screen, no more buttons, you know, button phones. That's so 1980s. So these functions were state of the art back then, you know. You got to realize that. So, but neat little phone this. It's got a little I don't know what you would call it, but it's to stick like a hand, I don't know what you would call it. It's like to have a little strap. It's a hand strap. You'd connect the hand strap to that. This is obviously to push the SIM out, like so, which is actually a real tough cookie. And a couple of volume buttons there. I will show you this actually before taking the SIM card out. The volume, I think, it's saying check card now. What is that? Oh, enter pin. God's sake. Right, so got the pin. Okay, so I think actually to adjust the ringer was the up arrow. Yeah, the up arrow, and then these volume buttons did your ringer. And there is only one type of ringer on these, of course. And interesting to note, this is exactly the same way you change the ringer on the digiflip, which I showed you earlier at the beginning of the video. The same phone as this, just with the flip. And the ringer is exactly the same sound as well. So I think this is pretty much a Motorola digiflip or a 5200, just without the flip, basically, in a nutshell. So neat little phone. These are not as common as you might think. Certainly the 5200 and the 7200 and 7500 are a lot more common. Certainly to get a boxed one of these is pretty rare. I have seen these come up every now and again. The 7090 and the 7095 are identical looks wise. I haven't figured out what the difference is. Maybe the 95 can send SMS, whereas the 90 can only receive. I'm not even sure. But drop me a comment if you do know. Yeah, that's all I got to say about this one, really. Neat little phone, like I said. I would use this, but I only have one, and it's boxed. So this is going straight back in the box, back into storage. So give me a thumbs up if you like the video or the phone. It's always nice to pick up a nice little retro phone like this, because not many of these were floating around. But anyway, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.